Hello everybody, Mannix here. It's time to show you my top 5 favorite folding knives of all time. This was a very, very difficult decision to make because there's so many other knives I love. I can't just limit it to 5, but because of my own arbitrary rule set I came up with for this video, that's what I'm going to do. But first, let's start with the 5 honorable mentions. So this is not the top 5. This technically would make it a top 10 video. So in a way, I lied to you. I apologize for that. But we're going to start with the first 5 knives that I'm going to honorably mention. They did not make it into the official top 5, and I'm going to explain why. But nonetheless, they're still some of my favorite knives ever. Let's begin with the Kershaw OD2. Had this knife for probably over a decade now. All of my other knives, one way or another, got sold or traded at some point in my life. This one never did. I just kept it and kept it and kept it, never got rid of it, and they discontinued it. I absolutely love it because it's so simple. I love how it carries, love that pocket clip. I love the OD mechanism on there. It's just, it can't get much more simple than this, but it's so effective. I like the grip, the faux FRN they call this. I like the way it looks. I have no major complaints about it whatsoever. There's nothing obviously wrong with it. It's just one of the best EDC knives ever. And it was so affordable at the time too, less than 20 bucks. I wish I got like 20 of these damn things because I could have sold them all and then made a fortune off of them. Just one of my favorite knives of all time. Why it did not make it into the top 5? Just because it's simple. It's so simple and it's so affordable. There's nothing really crazy special about it or anything other than perhaps, I guess, the OD mechanism because there's only 2 knives in existence that have it, this and the OD1. And I just love the sheer simplicity and how lightweight it is. It's a great knife. Okay tactical blade too. I mean, if it doesn't fly out of your hand, we have a nice, okay amount of traction here and there's enough blade to work with, I guess. No, I would never pick this for tactical use, but it could kind of work for that. It's just so simple and so effective for what it's trying to be. One of my favorite knives of all time. Next up, we have the CRKT4 Sight. Another beautiful knife. I've had a couple different variants of this guy over the years. I love the blade shape. I love the grooves in the handle. I love the all metal handle. Although I'm not usually a fan of metal handles, this one's done right. I love the grip on here. It's so comfortable. There's no jimping or anything like that anywhere on the knife except for the liner lock there. But the way it's designed, the way the cutouts are shaped, it fits my hand perfectly regardless, and that is a feat. I love the rounded spine right here. It's just such a nice finishing touch. It's a big, chunky, heavy, beefy blade. I love that IKBS system on there. This is back when ball bearings on knives was a little bit more new. Now it's a lot more common, but back in the day, again, a little over a decade ago when these came out, this was the thing to have, and it still is today. Absolutely beautiful knife. It's extremely comfortable. Yes, it is a good tactical blade if you can get it in your grip without it flying out of your hand when you are extracting it and deploying it, simply because, again, that handle's slippery because it's all metal. And another reason it does not make it into my top 5 is that pocket clip. Although I don't mind the way it looks, I understand it. It's pretty much out of the way of your grip, and I do really like that about it. It's very ingenious. First of all, I don't like how it's tipped down, although that's not a huge deal. I can get over that. But I don't like how the knife is difficult to extract out of the pocket. For me, I have to kind of do one of these things, grip it this way. Most knives, I just grab them. This one, I have to kind of babysit and give it individual attention in order to extract it out of the pocket. I don't like it when I have to do that with knives because if a stressful situation came up, I may or may not remember to do that. So that's the one big hit I'll give this knife, but everything else about it is just beautifully squared away. But again, that's the one reason it doesn't make it into the top 5. Still top 10, one of my favorite knives ever. The Cold Steel Spartan. Classic cold steel design right here, absolutely beautiful. Love the stonewash finish on there. Even when it was bead blasted back in the day, these were still beautiful regardless. I just love the shape. It's so awesome. Very, very specific shape and specific patterns on this knife. Very comfortable, there's a lot to grip onto. I like how it's waveable. I like how it's just a big, badass, menacing blade. It's cool looking, it's very functional. I like how it's heavy. It's just a really, really cool knife. The big issue with it, the reason it doesn't make it into the top 5 is, one, it's clunky and kind of cumbersome. It's not the fast, I mean, it is fast and it does wave off of the pocket nicely, but because the pocket clip is so small and scrunched so high up there, and although that is a good thing for if you want the knife to be covert, that's great. But for extracting such a big knife like this, that's this heavy, in combination with the fact that it's waveable, I end up not having enough to grip onto, I feel like, and it accidentally snags on my pocket almost every single time when I'm just trying to extract it conventionally without waving it off of the pocket. Again, waving it is great, but I don't have very much to grip onto, and I always feel like I'm accidentally going to drop it or accidentally injure myself or someone else if I got into a dangerous or stressful situation. So it's not my top knife, even for tactical use, although it looks like it's supposed to be a tactical blade. Unfortunately, just because of that pocket clip and its overall shape, it's difficult for me to extract. Under conventional uses, it's completely fine. I love fondling with it. Once it's in your hand, it's absolutely excellent. This is a great tactical blade, but getting it out of the pocket into your hand, that's another story. Same thing with the 4 Sight there. But again, it's still some of my favorite knives of all time. The Spyderco Mannix FRCP lightweight. This happens to be the blue handled version, which I don't believe they make anymore, but this was the OG lightweight Mannix back in the day. Again, about a decade ago, these came out. CTS BD1 blade steel. Again, love the stonewash finish on there. It's lightning fast. It's got that signature Spyderco jimping, those signature Spyderco ergonomics. It just could not be better. It's extremely light. It's less than 3 ounces. FRCP handle, no steel liners. Love the cage ball bearing lock on there. Side actuating, it's very strong. It's very fast. It's ambidextrous. It's fun. It's beautiful, I think. I love everything about this knife, again, especially because of that weight and it's the way it looks, the shape, the ergonomics, everything is just amazing. So why is it not in the top 5? The wire clip, although I really like it and I love how it carries, I don't like how it feels. It feels like a paper clip and I feel like I'm going to accidentally break it because when I grip the knife to deploy it, whether I'm using the cage ball bearing lock or the opening hole, I automatically grip that pocket clip like a brace, and although it's helpful, it feels like I'm going to snap it right off. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I really don't think it will. I haven't heard of anything like that. You'd really have to be abusing your knife to do that, but it feels like it's going to break. It feels chintzy and cheap. I don't know what it is. It's very functional. I love it. And for being a lightweight knife, that's totally fine. I know why they put it on here. I understood. No complaints from me, except I don't know what it is. I can't make it into the top 5. Top 10, it's close. I still like it more than a lot of other knives. It's just not perfect. It's like a 9.5 out of 10. I kind of just wish this pocket clip felt a little bit more sturdy, but everything else is just absolute perfection on this Mannix lightweight. So it's still one of my favorite knives ever, both a tactical and EDC knife. It's great. The last knife in the honorable mentions before we get onto the official top 5, the Cold Steel Espada Large. The pimped out kind of premium version. I guess you could call it the S35VN version because that's the blade steel on here. Speaking of which, it's a miracle steel. It's a great blade steel. I argue it's better than S30V. One of the most beautiful knives ever. Probably my favorite looking knife of all time is probably this one right here. I love how menacingly large it is with that 5.5 inch blade. I love the way it looks. It's got like a big old rhino or something. It's just beautiful. It's so polished and gorgeous and sexy. It's just absolutely phenomenal. It's comfortable. There's a lot of grips you can hold it in. Yeah, it's slippery. Yeah, there's not as much grip on here compared to the G10 Espada, but because of its sheer size and the shape of the choils, it doesn't really matter that much, I don't think, because if you really lock your hand in there, I don't see it being an issue. So why is it not in the top 5? Because with finishes like this, these knives just scratch to shit so fast and so easily. I barely use this thing. I would carry it on occasion, and there's already a hairline scratch on the tip right there. I think there's another one right here somewhere. Yeah, there's 2 scratches. I mean, I don't know how they got there. Not sure, but the polished finishes scratch so easily. And because, again, kind of like the Spartan, because the pocket clip's so high up there, there's not a whole lot to grip. There's enough, and you can wave it off, but the combination of the handle scale, the polished G10 being slippery and not having a whole lot to grip onto, although it waves off the pocket beautifully, you don't have a whole lot to really brace your fingers on, and it might just fly out of your hands, again, if you're in a stressful situation. The same exact problem the Spartan has. On the G10 Espada, that problem solved, but I still like this one more than the G10 Espada simply for its looks, and I do love that S35VN blade steel. It just makes a really cool knife even more valuable and even more beautiful, I think. But again, one of my favorite knives ever. And again, once it's in your hand, it's great. You just got to get it out of your pocket and into your hand. That is the one issue, aside from the fact that it scratches easily because it's so polished. It's kind of a catch-22 there. If you want these looks, it's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's one of the problems you're gonna have to put up with. So these are still some of my favorite knives of all time, but they're not the official top 5. Let's get on to the official top 5 right now. The Cold Steel Recon 1. Of course, how could I say no? I love how slim it is. It has a nice weight to it, very balanced. It's fast enough for being a triad locking knife, which is one of the strongest locks in the world. I love the way it looks. I love the ergonomics on it. I love this Tanto blade. I like all three blades that it comes with, but this is easily my favorite. And they just set this thing over the top, pimped it out with the S35 VN blade still, and that DLC coating, bitch, is just absolutely phenomenal. Not just functionally, but also the way it looks, I think. It's a very good, everyday, you don't know what kind of situation you're going to get into knife. Granted, I would like a blade that's 6 inches if I wanted a really, really good defense blade or something, but for a knife where I do not know whether I'm going to get into a defensive situation or not, I have no idea what's going to happen, I'd like something just a little bit more manageable. Not that it's a small knife by any means, but this knife's just right in the sweet spot of being a big old badass tactical blade, but not being super heavy or over the top or too cumbersome. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Get a Recon 1. If you do not have one, you are missing out otherwise, I say anyway. And then, of course, it's in my favorite coloration, the black and orange, which matches that watch right there. Isn't that snazzy? Next up, an old friend of mine, the Boker S2. This happens to be in the special orange edition. You cannot get these anymore. They were from Blade HQ back in the day, but you can still get these with the black handles. I love that blade shape. It's like a big old Santoku knife, it reminds me of. I love the abrupt corners and turns on the handle. It looks very somewhat industrial, futuristic. I don't know, it's a cool looking knife. It's very, very cool looking. Not just the handle shape, not just this beautiful stonewash pocket clip, not just the beautiful stonewash blade and the Santoku shape right here, but just everything is just so squared away and gorgeous. I like the ridges right here for extracting out of the pocket. The pocket clip is almost perfection. I love that pocket clip. Love the big old fat ass flipper right here. I love this indentation for my thumb. I love the jimping. It's very good. It's skeletonized in there. It's good looking. It's very functional. No, it's not a good piercer, but it's pretty damn good at everything else. It's only a liner lock. It would have been kind of cool if it was a frame lock or something, but regardless, just by sheer design, by the way it looks and how quickly it deploys, its nice lockup, the nice way it carries, it's just everything's just pretty much perfection. I absolutely love the Boker S2. But the thing that sets it over the top for me is the sheer looks. Very, very good looking blade, I think. So easily one of my favorites ever. Top 5. The Boker S2 makes it in. Next up, we got the Spyderco Mannix. The G10 Mannix. Some of you may have been screaming at the camera just a few minutes ago when I was talking about that wire clip bothering me on the lightweight Mannix. Mannix, just get a G10 Mannix, you idiot. Well, that's what I did. I got a G10 Mannix, and I absolutely love this thing. Easily top 5 knives of all time. Again, same exact things I love about the lightweight Mannix. I love the jimping. It's very heavily jimped all over the place. It's just good looking, lots of attention to detail. I love the G10 handle scales. I love the ergonomics and the shape of the handle. You can hold this in multiple different positions. Love those leaf-shaped blades. Love the stonewash finish on here. Again, both this and the S2 have a stonewash finish, but you can see the variations in the stonewash finish is very different looking. This one's a lot more subtle, but a little more reflective. Both good looking blades though. Love the cage ball bearing lock, one of my favorite locks of all time. Not quite as strong as a triad lock, but it's damn fast, and you can open and close it without touching the blade, so it's got that fidget factor. Really awesome. Completely ambidextrous. Spyderco pocket clips are near perfection. I love the big old fat lanyard hole right there. There's nothing I could say bad about this knife. And we got an S30V blade on there if that wasn't enough. So it's just a perfect everyday everything blade. Slightly not as strong as that Recon one, slightly shorter, but you know what? It's still strong enough, and it's certainly faster. So it's still a great EDC / tactical blade, a lot of traction. It's perfection. Love the Mannix. I don't know why they didn't skeletonize the liners on this variant. I don't really care that much. It's just kind of weird to me how they didn't do that on this blade, but whatever. Now, speaking of the Mannix, I really was trying to decide for a long time which one I wanted to put into the top 5. Someone said, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to add in another knife, a bonus top 5 knife. So technically that makes it top 6, whatever. The Mannix XL. Pretty much the exact same knife, except it's bigger. You can see a little bit longer cutting edge right there. Just I think about an inch longer perhaps, and slightly maybe like, I don't know, half an inch longer handle. I don't know the exact specs offhand, but everything else is pretty much exactly the same shape, same cutouts, same pocket clip, Pretty much the same knife, but it's just a little bit longer. I think it's slightly heavier, even though this knife is skeletonized and the original Mannix is not. Don't know why that is, but regardless, it feels very light for its size. It's just a massive, chunky, sexy, big old knife right here. A lot to hold on to. There's even more reach. I like the guard we have down there on the butt of the handle. It's a big old massive tactical blade. Still love that blade shape. Looks like we got a satin finish instead of a stonewash. But it's everything I love about a Mannix, except it's just a little bit bigger. I just could not decide which one I wanted to include in the top 5. I couldn't, so I just threw them both. It's one of my favorite knives of all time, and maybe that's one of the reasons my name is Mannix too. So there we go, both Mannixes made it in. How could we forget this guy? The Benchmade LFK. God damn, these things are rare and they are valuable. But not only are they just really cool, this one happens to be a first production run. I love how big and chunky that handle is. Even though I'm not a huge fan of rubberized handles, this one's done right. I like the jimping on the blade right there. But of course, the big thing that sets this knife over the part is that custom mechanism right there that goes flush underneath the handle when the blade is out and deployed, and then it comes back out when it is time to close the blade and put it away. It's just a very ingenious, cool, simple design. There's a lot of novelty here. Is it functional? I don't know why you would want that. I don't know why you'd want to shorten the handle. Sometimes I like having a longer handle because there's just more to hold on to, and that gives you even more reach. But regardless, it's cool as hell. It's a very good looking blade, very menacing. I think it's 5 inches on there. Damn, it's just very functional, very good tactical blade, I would argue too. Just because it's so valuable and so rare, and it's got such a unique mechanism you won't see anywhere else probably for a long time. We have not seen anything else like this in the last 20 years or so. It's just really, really cool. Very, very awesome knife. Of course, it had to make it into the top 5 or 6 regardless. There's a lot of big old cold steels I love, but if I had to just pick one, man, you gotta make me pick one, guys. There's too many I like, but if I had to narrow it down, did you hear that double click? The X2, the Voyager X2, the original model Voyager. They never made an X2 size new Voyager, although I love the new Voyagers as well. Very functional blades. They're kind of like the Glocks of the knife world, but absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous knife. It's so simple. I love that clip blade right there. A lot to hold on to, so much reach. 6-inch blade. It's absolutely massive. It's almost comically huge, but I love the novelty of how it's an old discontinued OG cold steel you can't get anymore. Love the VG1 blade steel on here too, by the way. That's also really cool, but I love the simplicity of it. It's just so simple. GripX or FRN handle scales right here. A lockback. There's not much more to it, man. It's just a simple giant lockback folder, and I love how lightweight it is. It's just so cool. Again, there's a novelty factor here as well. So easily in the, I guess now it's a top 6 video, the top 6. Again, these two are kind of interchangeable, the XL and the regular Mannix right there, but that just shows you how much I love the Mannixes, and of course the lightweight one too. But Recon 1, easily probably my favorite go-to everything EDC / tactical blade, just because of that strength right there. S2 is one of my favorite knives as far as its looks goes, but it's still very functional as well. It's just probably one of my favorite looking knives ever, and it functions good too. Both the Mannixes right here are absolutely phenomenal, both with looks and with function. It's just, they're absolutely squared away. They feel so good in the hand. All the jimping's perfection. The lockup's great. I love those cage ball bearing locking mechanisms. Man, I love these things. They're just so amazing. Love both of these knives with all of my heart. If they were both women, I'd date them both simultaneously if they'd be okay with that. And then, of course, the novelty factor of the separate mechanism on the LFK sets this thing over the top, but it's a very beautiful knife as well. And of course, the cold steel Voyager X2, similar blades in some ways, similar finishes, similar shapes, both very, very cool though. There you have it. That is the top 5 Mannix folding knives. What are your top 5 folding knives? Leave a comment below. I would love to hear what you have. Feel free to subscribe, hit that little bell notification if you do not want to miss the weekly knife, gun, gear, flashlight, lighter, etc. videos. Support me on Patreon, link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.